Meghan Markle continues to struggle with her business ventures, particularly As Ever and ShopMy. Since the relaunch of As Ever, the brand has faced a series of missteps. Critics point to recycled content, poorly executed Instagram posts, and a lack of any clear brand identity or direction. Rather than appearing polished and purposeful, the brand comes across as disorganized and unfocused. At the same time, Meghan's ShopMy affiliate efforts have also raised questions. She reportedly posted details about an outfit featured in As Ever promotional imagery a full week after the images were released, missing a key opportunity to capitalize on consumer interest while it was still fresh. Some observers have speculated that the delay may have been due to the extremely high cost of the featured items, with the total value of the outfit reportedly exceeding $100,000. If the products are priced far beyond what most people can afford, promoting them may have little practical impact on sales. This leads to a broader criticism that if the goal is to influence purchasing decisions, the featured products should be accessible to the target audience. The commentator expresses ongoing frustration with what they view as repeated failures in basic business strategy. Despite having access to significant resources, connections, and opportunities that many entrepreneurs would envy, Meghan continues to make decisions that critics believe undermine her ventures. The situation is presented as an example of how not to run a business, offering lessons for aspiring entrepreneurs about the importance of branding, marketing, timing, and understanding customer needs. After a sponsorship segment discussing skincare products, the discussion returns to Meghan's business performance. The commentator notes that they are continually surprised by how poorly these ventures seem to be managed despite the support and resources available. They question how someone can repeatedly make business mistakes while still attracting funding and public attention, suggesting that Meghan's public profile and personal narrative may be the primary reasons investors and supporters remain interested. The relaunch of As Ever is then examined more closely. Approximately 1 week after the relaunch, the brand's Instagram account had grown from around 877,000 followers to roughly 884,000 followers. While some may view this as positive growth, the commentator remains skeptical, arguing that the increase may not be entirely organic. In their opinion, the content being shared is not compelling enough to attract thousands of new followers naturally. They suggest that a portion of the growth may have come from paid followers or promotional tactics designed to create the appearance of momentum and success. Looking at the content itself, the commentator argues that the promotional images used for As Ever fail to make the products look appealing. In their view, successful product photography should immediately attract customers and highlight the items being sold, but these images do the opposite. They also criticize Meghan's repeated use of the word ritual in her branding, suggesting that she is attempting to elevate ordinary daily activities into something more meaningful or luxurious. However, the commentator feels that this language comes across as forced rather than authentic and does not resonate with everyday consumers. A recent social media post described moments of ritual woven throughout the day, mentioning activities such as morning tea, a quiet pause at a desk, candlelit baths, and breakfast in bed. The commentator questions how relatable these examples really are, joking that most people only enjoy breakfast in bed on special occasions like Mother's Day. While they appreciate certain relaxing routines, such as taking a bath, they argue that the lifestyle being presented feels disconnected from the experiences of many consumers. They also note that much of the brand's messaging revolves around tea, which may not appeal to those who prefer other beverages. Another major criticism is that despite the extensive rebrand, As Ever has not introduced many genuinely new products. Instead, the same items continue to be promoted through different marketing campaigns. The commentator believes the visual presentation of these products is particularly poor. One image featuring a croissant, orange marmalade, butter, and orange juice is described as unappetizing due to harsh lighting and unappealing styling. Rather than making viewers hungry or interested in the products, the image is said to create the opposite effect. The discussion then turns to one of the brand's candle promotions. The commentator notes that consumers are being asked to spend a premium price on a candle without being given a strong visual or sensory reason to do so. Since scents cannot be experienced through photographs, they argue that the imagery needs to work even harder to communicate quality and desirability. In their opinion, the marketing fails to accomplish this. A separate promotional image receives even harsher criticism. The commentator describes it as cluttered, confusing, and poorly designed. The scene contains numerous competing elements, including colorful table settings, fruit, pastries, tea, and various food items, making it difficult for viewers to identify the actual product being advertised. Rather than creating a clean and focused composition, the image overwhelms the eye with too many colors, textures, and objects. As a result, the product itself gets lost in the background. The confusion becomes even more apparent when the post attempts to promote honey with honeycomb. The caption encourages customers to pair the honey with cheese, bread, or charcuterie, yet the commentator points out that the honey is barely visible in the photograph. If viewers cannot immediately identify the featured product, they argue, the marketing has failed in its primary objective. Finally, the commentator expresses frustration with what they see as repetitive content across Meghan's lifestyle branding. They joke that nearly every example revolves around the same themes: charcuterie boards, cookies, and simple pasta dishes, suggesting that the brand lacks creativity and variety. In their view, the repetitive imagery and unclear marketing continue to reinforce the perception that As Ever struggles with both product presentation and brand identity. The commentator continues analyzing As Ever's marketing imagery, pointing out that one photograph appears to include the reflection or image of a person involved in taking the shot. While they admit they did not notice it initially, others highlighted the detail afterward. In their view, a professional marketing team would have identified and removed such distractions before publishing the image. Whether the person shown is an assistant or Meghan herself, they argue that visible reflections and unintended figures in promotional photos can make a campaign appear less polished and professional. Additional criticism is directed at the overall presentation of the image. The commentator notes visible creases in what appears to be a tablecloth or napkin, arguing that professional product photography should eliminate such imperfections. They also question the arrangement of various items within the image, including flowers, tea products, lemons, honeycomb, and other food elements. According to the commentator, the composition lacks a clear focus and fails to communicate a cohesive message about the product being promoted. This leads to a broader discussion about effective marketing. The commentator argues that strong marketing is fundamentally about storytelling rather than simply displaying products. Successful campaigns show consumers how products fit into a lifestyle, create an emotional connection, and present a clear narrative. In their opinion, As Ever's imagery often lacks this storytelling element, leaving viewers uncertain about what product is being sold and why it should matter to them. The commentator also believes that another image in the series would have worked better as the lead promotional photograph because it more clearly featured the product. Even then, they maintain that visible reflections and other distractions should have been edited out during post-production. Modern photography and editing tools make these corrections relatively straightforward, and they view the decision to leave such elements visible as another example of poor attention to detail. A major concern raised is the lack of a consistent visual identity across the brand. The commentator explains that successful brands usually develop a recognizable aesthetic that allows consumers to instantly identify their content. As an example, they describe how they maintain a consistent color scheme, font, and design style for their own content so that viewers can immediately recognize it. They argue that As Ever's imagery varies too much from post to post, making it difficult for the brand to establish a strong and memorable identity. The discussion then shifts to the brand's candle products and their naming conventions. The commentator criticizes the decision to tie products so closely to personal dates and milestones from Meghan's life. In their view, building a product line around highly personal references creates limited opportunities for future expansion because there are only so many significant dates and events available to draw from. They suggest that a broader theme would provide far more flexibility and allow for a larger range of products over time. To illustrate this point, the commentator imagines how The commentator argues that while it is normal for a brand owner to occasionally reference their own life or experiences, successful businesses usually do so in subtle and creative ways. In their opinion, As Ever relies too heavily on personal references, causing the brand to feel overly centered on Meghan herself rather than on the products being sold. As a result, they believe the brand often comes across as self-focused rather than aspirational. One example highlighted is the marketing description for a candle inspired by Meghan and Prince Harry's wedding anniversary. The promotional language describes feelings of warm sunshine, blue skies, love, laughter, and cherished memories. The commentator criticizes the repeated use of phrases such as love story, arguing that the language feels overly grand and romanticized. They suggest that the candle is essentially being marketed around Meghan's wedding memories and question how sustainable that strategy can be over the long term. This concern leads to a broader criticism of the brand's product development. The commentator argues that if products continue to be tied to specific personal milestones, eventually there will be very few meaningful events left to reference. In their view, a successful lifestyle brand needs a wider range of themes and inspirations that allow for ongoing growth and expansion. Without that flexibility, they believe the product line risks becoming repetitive and creatively limited. The discussion then shifts to As Ever's efforts to market its collection as a pantry. The commentator strongly disagrees with that description, arguing that the products being sold are not pantry essentials in the traditional sense. When they think of a pantry, they imagine staple ingredients such as flour, sugar, oils, and other everyday cooking necessities. By contrast, they view As Ever's products as specialty or luxury items rather than items people would typically consider pantry basics. According to the commentator, the company has been pushing this pantry concept for several months without gaining significant traction. They suggest that if a marketing strategy is not producing results after an extended period, a business should reevaluate its approach. Good companies, they argue, regularly analyze what is working, what is not working, and what adjustments need to be made. This process of reflection and adaptation is essential for long-term success. The commentator believes As Ever is already showing signs of stagnation despite being a relatively new brand. They point to the recent rebrand as evidence that the original concept struggled to gain momentum. In their view, the company is facing challenges because it lacks a clear roadmap for future growth, new product development, and innovation. To illustrate the contrast, they mention other celebrity-founded brands that have introduced a wider range of products and concepts, creating more opportunities for expansion. They argue that As Ever's biggest challenge is that many of its products and marketing campaigns continue to revolve around Meghan's personal experiences rather than a broader brand vision. This, they believe, limits creativity and reduces the number of directions the business can take in the future. The commentator also questions what the long-term strategy for the brand might be. They note that there have been few new products introduced and very little indication of upcoming innovations. Without a clear identity, consistent messaging, or a pipeline of fresh ideas, they believe the brand may struggle to maintain consumer interest over time. In their assessment, the recent rebrand failed to solve these issues and may have made the brand's identity even less clear than before. The conversation then turns to Meghan's ShopMy affiliate platform. The commentator had previously wondered whether the platform had been quietly abandoned, but recent updates suggest it remains active. They criticize the website's design, describing it as clunky and difficult to navigate. Attention is then drawn to newly added images from As Ever promotional campaigns, including a featured gown from luxury fashion house Oscar de la Renta, which was listed with pricing available only upon request. This serves as the starting point for a broader discussion about the affordability and effectiveness of the fashion products being promoted through the platform. The commentator continues their criticism of Meghan Markle's fashion affiliate platform, questioning both its purpose and execution. They argue that one featured gown appears to be a recreated version of the dress Meghan wore during her wedding reception, suggesting that it resembles an existing off-the-rack design while carrying a far more exclusive presentation. According to the commentator, they still do not fully understand the purpose of the website or how it is supposed to drive meaningful consumer engagement. Attention then turns to the pricing of the featured clothing. The commentator highlights several luxury items, including a jacket priced at thousands of dollars, arguing that most consumers are unlikely to purchase products at those price points. They compare this strategy to outfits Meghan wore during earlier public appearances, such as the Australia tour, where many of the featured pieces were expensive, but still within a range that some consumers could realistically aspire to purchase. In contrast, they believe the current selections are so expensive that they effectively eliminate much of the potential customer base. Another major criticism involves timing. The commentator notes that the As Ever relaunch occurred more than a week before details of the outfits were added to the affiliate platform. In their view, this represents a missed marketing opportunity. If public interest and media attention are at their highest immediately following a launch or promotional campaign, then product links should be made available as quickly as possible. Waiting several days, they argue, reduces the likelihood that consumers will still be interested in purchasing the featured items. The discussion moves through several examples of luxury fashion pieces and accessories, many carrying four-figure or even five-figure price tags. The commentator points out expensive sweaters, coats, trousers, jewelry, shoes, and accessories, arguing that such items are financially out of reach for most consumers. They question the effectiveness of promoting products that few followers can realistically afford, particularly during a period when many people are focused on managing household budgets and limiting discretionary spending. According to the commentator, the overall strategy appears disconnected from the realities of the broader market. The purpose of affiliate marketing, they argue, is generally to encourage purchases by recommending products that followers may be interested in buying. If the majority of the audience cannot afford the products being promoted, then the likelihood of generating meaningful sales becomes significantly lower. The commentator also notes inconsistencies in the content being promoted. Some expensive outfits worn during public appearances have reportedly not been added to the platform at all, while others were uploaded
that was a major abdication. And so there are so many people
this inconsistency further contributes to their belief
so many
that the
different
strategy
countries
lacks clear planning and coordination.
a long
Tio
time to
illustrate the
exhaust
issue.
all your potential
They compare
options
luxury
for
fashion
a
promotions
candle
with
based
more
on a
affordable
royal
consumer
tied to a
products.
date.
In their
Whereas
view,
with Meghan,
brands that offer
she's basically
reasonably
hit her
priced
limit
items
already.
are more
There's
likely
not
to
a lot of
generate
places to go
engagement
from
and
here, and any
sales
of the other
because
places she
followers
goes,
can
people are gonna go,
realistically imagine
"Ooh,
purchasing
you
them.
sure you want to do
By
that?"
contrast,
Because you're
promoting
really
luxury
kind
goods that cost thousands or
of
even tens of
dragging
thousands
the gutter here.
of dollars creates a much
This
smaller potential
was a
customer
huge
pool and
error
may
in
reduce
judgment,
the
and it also comes
effectiveness
across
of the
really
overall marketing
narcissistic.
effort.
I don't
The
know if I
commentator
would
concludes
want
that
to
the
buy into a
combination of
brand
delayed
where
posting,
everything
extremely
the
high-priced
person makes is a
products,
self-reference.
and a lack of clear
That
strategy
comes
undermines
across
the
as
platform's
insanely
ability to
narcissistic.
function
You
as
can
an
do
effective
fun
affiliate
nods to
marketing
yourself
tool.
from time to time,
In their
of course.
assessment, if the
But
goal is to
smart people
influence
can do that
purchasing
in clever
decisions
ways
and
where it
generate
doesn't come across
sales, a
insanely
greater focus on
egotistical.
accessibility,
This brand to me comes
timing,
across
and
as
audience
insanely
needs would likely
egotistical.
produce stronger
It says
results.
the feeling of warm
The
sunshine and blue
commentator
skies surrounded by
concludes by
love and
arguing
laughter.
that Meghan Markle's current business
There
and
wasn't a lot
marketing
of love and
strategy
laughter.
lacks
There was like tears and
consistency
screaming,
and
I
clear
think.
direction.
Celebrating 8
In
years
their
of our
view,
founder, Meghan,
the
and Prince
primary
Harry's love
goal of
story.
affiliate
And why do we
marketing and
need to call
lifestyle
it a love
branding is
story?
to
It's not
generate
freaking
revenue.
love story.
But they believe Meghan has
Just
struggled
hate
to find
that
an approach that
use of
successfully
words
connects
because it
with
comes across
consumers.
to
They
me
describe
again.
her
It's
public
incredibly
strategy as
egotistical,
constantly
incredibly
shifting between different
grandiose.
messages and
Talks about
objectives,
the signature
making
candle,
it difficult for
modern
audiences
and
to
elegant, love at
understand
first sight,
exactly
the
what the
feeling of
brand
warm sunshine
stands
and blue
for.
skies surrounded by love and
According
laughter.
to the
This
commentator,
candle
a significant amount of
holds
investment and resources
the
has
ease and joy
reportedly
of a
gone
day that
into As
holds
Ever,
Meghan's most cherished
meaning the
memories.
brand
Or
now
when,
faces
yeah,
pressure to
because that was
generate
when she
strong
was at her
sales
peak
in order
and
to
she
justify those
fell off that.
expenditures.
So she
They
wants to remember
suggest
her
that
wedding
this may
all the
be
time.
one reason Meghan has
And again,
expanded into affiliate
like,
fashion
what are we going to
marketing
do? Celebrate the
alongside
Queen's
the
death
lifestyle
with a
products.
candle? Like, I don't
However,
know where we
they
go.
argue that if core products
So
such
dumb.
as
And then
jams,
this was
teas,
the interesting
honey,
thing I
and
got
other
today.
offerings are not gaining
Trying to
substantial
sell the
traction,
perfect gift, the As
simply
Ever
branching into
pantry.
fashion may
I
not
hate
solve
that
the
we don't
underlying
use it so
challenges
much.
facing the brand.
Sweet,
The
comforting, and
discussion
essentially
then
useful.
returns to
From slow mornings
speculation
and
about a
cozy
possible
evenings to
future fashion
effortlessly
line.
entertaining.
The
Shop the great
commentator
As
references
Ever
previous
pantry
reports
at
and
asever.com.
observations,
So
including
she
the
has been
appearance of a
trying to
size
sell
guide
this
on the
for a
brand's
long
website,
time now, and
which
it
some
is not
interpreted as a
working.
sign that clothing
This
products
is not
may
a
eventually
pantry.
be introduced.
Like
Although
a
no
pantry to
official
me would
fashion
be
launch
like
has been
flour,
announced, they
sugar.
believe such a move
You
remains
have,
a
let's say,
possibility. At the same
oil and
time,
those sorts of
they
things.
question
None of
whether a
the
fashion
pieces
expansion
that
would be
she's trying to
successful
sell
if
there,
the existing
I would
product
consider
categories have
pantry
not yet
essentials.
established a strong foundation.
They are
Another criticism
extra.
focuses
They are
on the original
additional.
purpose
There are
that
these
was
sorts of things.
reportedly
And so to
promoted for
me,
Meghan's
and
affiliate
Meghan had to
fashion
repost
platform.
it. That's
According to the
hysterical.
commentator,
She
the
reposts her
platform
own
was
crap.
initially
It's so
presented
funny.
as a way to
So,
highlight and support
anyways,
smaller designers and
Meghan, of
independent
course,
brands.
trying to
However,
make this
they argue
work
that many
just
of the
doesn't
products
work. And
featured
she
in
sent
recent
email out about
campaigns
this
come from
today
major
too, and I
luxury
just kept
fashion
thinking, is
houses
like,
such as
you
Christian
have been
Dior,
trying to sell
Chanel,
the pantry
Cartier,
idea for
Celine,
months now.
Dero, and
We
Oscar de
are
la
5
Renta.
months
In
plus
their
into the
opinion,
year.
this does not
You
align
started
with the
this 5
stated
months
goal of
ago.
promoting
It's
lesser-known
not
designers
selling.
and emerging
You
brands.
need to let it go and try
The
something
commentator
else because it's
suggests
just
that the
clearly
products
not
featured
working.
in
Put
these
it on clear,
campaigns
whatever,
appear to reflect
to try
Meghan's
and get
personal
this to
fashion
sell because there's
preferences,
something about the
rather
brand.
than
And
any
this is,
broader mission
again,
to
comes
support
from
smaller
good
businesses.
self-reflection.
They argue
Good,
that there is a
what do they call
disconnect
it?
between
After
the
action
messaging
reviews and these sorts
surrounding
of
the
things is that
platform
you come
and the
back to the
actual
table and go,
products
okay,
being
what
promoted.
worked, what
In their
didn't, what can we
view,
change, what do we
audiences
keep
are
the
increasingly able to
how do
recognize
we
that
innovate? Because
contradiction,
the
which may
problem I think
reduce
Meghan Markle's
trust in
running
the
into is
brand's
that the brand
messaging.
is
A
already
recurring theme
stalling.
throughout the commentary
It's already stalling
is the
this
belief
barely a
that
year
Meghan
in.
attempts to present her
Yeah,
ventures
or
as having
barely
a
a year
larger
in.
purpose,
And
while
it's
ultimately
stalled.
operating as commercial
It's stalling
enterprises.
already. You're
The
already having to
commentator argues that there
rebrand.
is nothing
You
inherently
just
wrong
started.
with
Now,
building a
again,
business
a
to make money,
counterexample would be
but
Sydney
they believe
Sweeney's
consumers
Siren. I
respond
don't know
more
how well it's
positively when
doing
brands are
overall
transparent
because
about
we
their
don't know the
goals.
internal metrics,
They
but she's
suggest
got
that
a lot of
clearer and
SKUs,
more direct
a lot of
messaging
different
could
concepts
potentially be
going
more
on,
effective
which I
than
think is
trying to
rather
balance
interesting.
commercial
And
objectives with
there's
broader
a lot of room
lifestyle
for
or
growth in the
philanthropic
brand
narratives.
because
Looking at the
there's
future of As
constantly
Ever,
ways to innovate
the
because not
commentator
everything
believes
is a
the recent
self-reference.
rebrand
The problem
failed
with
to
Meghan is that
address many
everything
of the
seems to be a
issues they have
self-reference.
identified.
And
They
she's not
argue that the
particularly,
brand still
again,
lacks a
talented creative
clearly
person,
defined identity,
and she's not
consistent
particularly
marketing
accomplished person.
strategy,
Again,
and
her
compelling
accomplishment is
product
marrying a rich
roadmap.
guy.
In their
That's her
assessment,
accomplishment.
many of the
And
challenges
yes,
facing the
you could
company
say
stem
that's
from
great,
leadership
but a lot of
decisions
women have
and
done
an
that over the
unwillingness
century.
to
Nothing that
adapt
she's done is
based on
particularly
feedback and
groundbreaking.
criticism.
Her using her
The
raise,
discussion
I'm
concludes
sorry,
with the
that just means
commentator
nothing to
acknowledging
me in
that
the
there
grand
may be a
scheme of
path
things.
for
It
As
really
Ever to
doesn't. I don't
succeed
really
if
care
it develops
because
a
never
stronger
thought there
identity,
was a
introduces
restriction
innovative
against a
products,
person of
and
marrying into the
refines its
British
marketing
monarchy. I always knew
approach.
it would happen. The only people who
However,
didn't
they
apparently
remain
are Meghan Markle
skeptical
and her
that
fans.
such
Like,
changes
that's the
will
only
occur under the
people.
current
I think
direction.
anybody else in the
As a
UK always
result,
thought that was a
they predict
possibility,
that the
but Meghan's
brand may
fans,
continue to
whew,
face
not
difficulties
so
gaining
much.
momentum
But the
and
problem
achieving
comes back to,
significant
again,
commercial
is that where do
success
you
in the
take
long
this brand
term.
from here?